Welcome once again to HeroQuest fans. We are back on a Friday. And of course, shout out to Carl Casey at White Bat Audio, Carl Casey at Bandcamp on the web. Check his stuff out on YouTube, White Bat Audio. Just to let you know, these AI songs, again, I'm not trying to offend anybody's particular musical taste, just doing some experiments with AI. Now, Suno.com allows me to create AI songs, but I have written the lyrics myself. So yeah, various people have asked me, hey, where can I download it? Well, right now, nowhere. It's not publicly available. But if people want it, I think I'm going to refine it a little bit more and then just put it out for free. So, because it is AI, uh, don't pay for AI if you can if you can help it. Certainly don't buy it. I see Bohemius is here. Welcome, Bohemius.
Hello.
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, everything fine, thank you.
Getting some warmer weather. Sun's out, so I'm hoping to do some painting, do some spraying outside once we get done with our stream here. Get into that. I got a little bit of time before Gen Con to get my troops ready. I'm working on some Eldar. I have some. They're still on the sprues right now, so just basically starting from the beginning. I want to paint up 10 figures. Now you gave me all those wonderful 3D printed dwarves and stuff, but I'm afraid to transport them to the convention and have them get broken. But eventually, I would like to paint those as well. So thank you again for those.
Yeah, they're very fragile.
Oh
They can
yeah,
get crushed.
yeah.
They're
Well,
different.
you protected them very well, and again, I'm so glad that you didn't send me a resin because it's even less durable. But yeah, need to protect them, and it's one thing to like transport them somewhere, but it's another to like keep taking them out of the package and putting them back in and carrying them around in the bag, banging around through a crowd, which is what I'm concerned about. I didn't want to bring my classic Space Crusade figures to the last convention, so I used my proxies instead, and they held up pretty well. But the nice thing about those is they're not even glued; like they're just the push fit figures, and then I have sticky tack to like hold the weapons together. So if they fall apart, I just stick them back on. So that was my secret, and it worked pretty well. We got to play a game of it at least. So as far as HeroQuest news, I saw that AshQuest did a video. Some various people were posting in the Discord. Sika Shem had the note, the website, which disappeared, and then another one came up, and another one. But I think the last we heard, Crypt of Perpetual Darkness is supposedly coming out July 1st. Is that what we're hearing now?
Yes, that's the news
Mhm.
and the only one.
And it's not officially confirmed by anyone at Avalon Hill, right? This is just from
Nope,
stores. Yeah.
just
Which,
from stores. They're just keeping quiet.
yeah,
They don't want to talk with us anymore.
we're such blabbermouths. Just joking. Well, kind of. I like to share information with the community. I mean, if somebody tells me something in confidence, I'll keep it quiet. But I mean, I haven't signed any NDAs, so legally, I mean, I can just say whatever I want about this stuff. Um, So, as far as the July 1st release date, my thought is this. I get the fact that different sites are going to have different dates, and those dates are subject to change. Like, okay, all that disclaimer out of the way. In actual fact and practice, I feel like when they give us a date, it's been accurate, like within 2 weeks. I think I want to say
Yeah,
was it the one of the releases, I can't remember which one now, but it was like they said January 1st, and it ended up being January 15th. I mean, it's pretty darn close. So I think it's when they say July 1st, I mean that's July is what I'm gonna think. And then the other thing we've run across is the vast majority of the HeroQuest retail releases have come out early. Like they give us a date, but then people just say, "Oh yeah, and it arrived." Like maybe even a month early. Not everyone, you can't count on that, but for the most part, if they say July, I mean some people will probably get it in June. So that's
yes,
pretty quick, pretty soon.
but they didn't give us yet an official date.
That's true.
We know that it's around that time.
Mhm. I want to say that
And, or-
maybe you remember this. The funniest example was for the Frozen Horror. I feel like the last thing we heard was the official release date, but by then like people already had it, people had unboxed it, you know, and it's just
Yeah,
like it was kind of an afterthought.
was was the very first expansion, right?
Yeah, technically,
Uh,
if you
so yeah,
forget the Guardian Night, the limited release night, that was kind of a one-off too. But yeah, the first real new expansion
yeah, but
in retail.
their way to do things become pretty standard in the years, the different expansion. It, so even if the first one was like an anomaly, all the
Hmm.
other one were like scheduled. And,
Yeah, they
they
were.
had they had a schedule for with the Carmen. We even had a schedule for the Easter eggs and
Hmm.
and stuff to search.
Yeah,
After him, not only we got the like reveal, we got a reveal, we got uh, when they open the sales
yeah,
and the release date. So
yeah.
nothing else.
They refined their process. They definitely did.
Yes.
And I think Mage of the Mirror, we all expected it to come out, but it wasn't leaked ahead of time. Like that was one of the few. And then Spirit Queen and Prophecy of Telor, I remember nobody could get those before the date that began. I think it was like the pre-order and that was it. Rise of the Dread
Yeah,
Moon came out on the day that they said it would.
if I had to guess, the huge leak we had in November there, right, to the year of Cristobal was planned by by Ben Carmen.
Yeah,
Because they fired me. Okay, at least I got this one out.
they're allegedly. We have no proof of this, but it would be
Uh,
funny. It,
no,
I always joked about how, we would go to one of these conventions and they couldn't tell us anything, but then the guy would quote unquote accidentally drop the briefcase full of like documents like right in front of us. Oops.
eh,
Oh, how
well,
clumsy of me.
maybe new. Maybe new. I said now the next group is not going to give any information to the player. They need something tangible, something
I
huge.
I thought it built anticipation. I thought whether accidental or on purpose, it fueled our desire and speculation, and I think it
Oh, yeah.
helped. It didn't hurt. It wasn't like, oh no, all these disappointing things, to come. No surprises. All we had were titles, and
Mhm.
most of it was based on existing things, we could speculate. Go, oh, Spirit Queen Torment. Well, I know what that is. Against the Ogre Horde, I know what that is. The only question is what things will they change, and when precisely is it going to come out? So kept us talking. So it was I don't think those leaks are bad, and I feel like when it comes to the new releases, so Rise of the Dread Moon and Jungles of Delthrak, they gave us teasers to think about. I mean, officially or unofficially, they put that stuff out there, and that was good because again, unlike those pre-existing legacy content releases where we had something to base off of, we had no idea what the Wandering Monk was going to be. We had no idea what Rise of the Dread Moon was going to be. So those little details, knowing that Jungles of Deltarak had something to do with dwarves, and seeing a hand or a foot to try to figure out okay what that was, that gave us something to think about, something to work with. So with Wizards of Morkar and Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, I mean, that's already kind of enough to speculate about, just knowing those titles alone. Knowing the prices, okay, that helps a little bit. You can imagine, okay, the smaller price is the smaller box, the bigger price is the bigger box. Okay, got it. But if they're going to release another expansion, yeah, it's like we're all kind of speculating, aren't we, that there's going to be something else in between, right? Maybe a hero collection, maybe another new thing. What do you think? Do you think we'll see in 2025 a third box?
Maybe the hero collection, but yeah, I don't know because really First Light is taking completely the scene completely.
Well, and
We
first
we
first light is a new thing.
they just published yesterday the program for the play Bologna, and the only event for Hasbro and Avalon Hill is they're going to present the first light, not even in Italian.
Oh, hey,
Like,
hey, I'm missing some of the comments here. I'm sorry. Wardicon says Bohemius is echoing.
good. So you can fix it, please.
Let me try to hear what you sound like on the stream here. Just a moment. Yeah, thanks guys for letting us know, keeping us. We were kind of getting carried away with our conversation. Go ahead, Bohemius, just say a few things if you want. We were kind of getting carried away with our conversation. Go ahead,
So testing, echo. Does my voice echo? Can you hear echo? Testing, echo.
Hmm.
It's enough. Need it more?
It's not so much an echo. It sounds like you're a space marine talking through your stormtrooper helmet there.
Yeah, yeah. Like any Friday.
Every Friday we got robot
Every
Bohemius
Friday.
here.
Yeah.
He can't actually make the stream, so he sends his AI to play in his place and then report back whether he did well. Just
Gangidi said it's sounding fine now.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks, guys. Yeah, let's look at these comments. So Geek on Giddy says, "Hey Kurgan, sorry you had to crack the tile sheet on your first light for the ratties." Hey, don't worry about it. My take on First Light is, other than the color of the dice, which is, I know I keep harping on that, it's going to be a very common, plentiful product. So if I was really wanting a pristine copy, I could just go and buy another one for cheap. But yeah, otherwise I don't have a reason to use those tiles, except I mean, it was kind of a cool idea that you had, using uh, in the stream to have the rats be characters, and then I could use those big visible rat tiles instead of the little plastic ones. I mean, it was a nice thing. Geek on Giddy says again, not to salt the wound, but is the white pips on red the coveted release or the reverse in First Light? Well, I think you'd have to ask the players. There are definitely people out there who will seize on anything that's different as, a curiosity, a collector's item. I mean, you had people that, after all the complaining we did about how crappy the Clark Mitchell cover was for First Light, you had a couple influencers that did demos that had the old cover, and people were like, "Oh man, that's gonna be worth so much. Oh, I'm jealous that you have that." And it's like, what? I mean, it's like having a comic book with a really stupid looking cover that everyone hates and throws in the trash. It's like, okay, well, it becomes rare, it becomes a collectible, but I mean, I don't want it. I want the good cover. I don't care if it's common. So as far as we've heard, and Bohemius, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, the only First Light sets that we've seen in the wild that have the white movement dice with the red pips are the ones sold in the U.S. At Target. Everywhere else, we've seen they're just like the game system dice, red with white
Yes.
pips, which is what they're supposed to be, because that's what you see on the GM screen. That's what you see in the booklet, on the back of the box. Everything gives you an impression that they're just going to be the same dice, and then you open it up and go, what? Why did they reverse the colors? Did they do it on purpose to thrill people with something new, or was it a screw up at the factory? Like, I could imagine it being a screw up at the factory, just, red and white. And they go, okay. And they punch the machine. And then...
in 30 years, they were going to say, back in my days,
yeah.
I remember I found the dice that was not corrected. Corker was very angry.
He was extremely angry. Yeah, he was irate for years. Well, and it's, I mean, we're not going down the road of, the blind buys, the loot boxes, where you open it up. You buy two because you're not sure what you're going to get inside, and you're hoping to get the variant, and then you don't get it. And yes, our speculation has been, screw up at the factory. They did it on purpose to make us think it was something cool, or it was the colors of Target, the store, because red and white are their logos. Of course, the reverse is also true. or it was maybe they just had a whole bunch of extra white dice in the factory that they wanted to get rid of, and they said, well, this isn't going to hurt anything. Or they had to sign, some very specific legalistic contract saying, it has to be something unique at the store. So they said, well, what's the least damaging thing that we can do that we'll just reverse the colors of the dice. That way, no one will be upset because the mechanics don't change. I mean, I'm not really upset about it. I'm not really angry. I'm just, why would they do something like that? It just seems goofy. I mean, if anything, I should be complaining more about typos on the cards, like lightning not hitting monsters. Like that's a gameplay change if you read it literally. Whereas the dice being a different color, I mean, who cares, right? It's just an aesthetic thing. The overall package, I mean, you could say maybe there's like 5 seconds of confusion when people are reading the expansions and it says use the red dice. Like, what red dice? There aren't any red dice. What are you talking about? But they can figure it out from the picture. Thanks, Geek on Giddy. He says, okay, bonus monster for Zargon, appreciate it. Dread rats for Zargon, dispose as a bonus monster. Interesting. And then he also says a few more things. Let's see. We're kind of just waiting for heroes to join. I mean, we've got Bohemius, but if anybody else wants to join us live, HeroQuest Fans Discord, voice channel Quest Talk, easiest way to join us as a hero. Everybody else, of course, can use their gold coins or channel points in the Twitch chat to influence the quest as we play. So Geek on Giddy says, for your consideration, Joe Manganiello has created an Instagram account for his pooch Bubbles. So his dog has a social media account. Okay. Maybe they'll announce a COPD release at Gen Con on stage with Bubbles coming into the limelight now. I have no idea. I was just thinking it would be kind of a funny or cool thing. Whether you're a fan of the guy or not, he was the author of the expansion. He could be there to take in the applause and maybe make a few jokes at his own expense about the proprietary nature of the product no longer being the case. What was the speculated Dread expansion? Dread expansion. Bohemius, do you have any idea what he's talking about? I mean, he doesn't mean Rise of the Dread Moon. I mean, we got that.
No, well, I don't know if you meant my speculation or your speculation.
Or anybody. Geek.
Your speculation was the crypt being more chaos oriented. My speculation of the Dread expansion was this I was called First Light 2, one written by Baker. They
Baker.
could be the next expansion for totally oriented on the gray miniatures.
Oh, the gray miniatures. Yeah, okay, that brings back memories. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. I hear it now. I did say something to that effect.
I don't know which one of the two.
Well, and I'm not even sure I was the first one to do it. I'm sure there's other people that said the same thing. I distinctly remember Amalgam Ash Quest saying that, where it was like, okay, Keller's Keep had the white plastic, the undead, and
oh really?
Or I know that right. I said it wrong. Return of the Witch Lord had the white plastic. Keller's Keep had the green plastic, and it's like, well, what's the other monster color? Yeah. Gray, right? So we should get a third one. But I mean, this was stuff that we were talking about before the mythic boxes came to retail. So we were thinking.
I'm telling you, it's a dream that I have since I'm a kid, because they say, why we have only one? We have one white box, one green box. We're missing one box. We were expecting. Yes, since kids. Mm-hmm. I remember that we were waiting for this box with the expansion for the gray miniatures.
Yeah, and it makes a certain amount of sense.
That's why I put the two things together. I said, why they call him? Okay, to do a sequel of a new starter set. They want to complete like that was the speculation.
Thanks, Ribby. Awesome. Appreciate the support.
I just put my wish with the news together.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's as you can see, there's a certain logic, there's a certain method to our speculation. We're taking what we've seen in the past and we're projecting to the future, right? I mean, yes, there's some wishful thinking in there too, always. But it's like, well, what do we want, and then what is likely to happen? But we've also seen that it seems like they've changed direction enough that we can't always reliably predict what they're really going to do. Because just when we think they're going to do
I
one thing,
still
they
see
do
the
something else.
pattern. I still see the pattern.
There,
I mean,
there are patterns, but
why when
moves.
in 2021 they did the two old expansion, okay,
Hmm.
Killer's Keep and Witch Lord, okay, but they presented anyway three expansion. They are like a parallel to the other two. So you have Spirit Queen, okay, with the undead. You have the other one, Taylor, with the orcs, and you have you have Kids of Perpetual Darkness with Chaos.
I think it's the opposite because Spirit Queen's Torment was all about the orcs, and Prophecy of Teller was all.
Sorry, yes,
Ah, I threw you
I
off.
inverted it.
Yeah,
Oh no, because
we
I
both did it.
didn't read it. I didn't read it, so
Yeah.
you understand. I don't know the story. I
Ah, okay.
just presumed there
Well,
was the
every,
Spirit Queen was the one for them.
but you probably heard people criticized the idea of Spirit Queen's Torment when it was first announced with Teo Sabati at writing. First of all, there are people that said, "Oh yeah, that guy in D&D, he sucks. You know, I hate his stuff." So they were kind of biased against. I'd never heard of him. But then the other thing was the concept of good guy orcs with the bard and everything. People were saying, "Oh man, they're gonna ruin the orcs.
Okay,
They're gonna ruin the lore."
but I understand anyway what I mean. They did
Yeah,
again the three expansions, so they make you
I see what you
really
mean.
believe they still missing the third one, the small box with the
Yeah,
gray miniatures,
so
because
they
they
owe us.
create a similar product.
Yeah,
Okay, three expansion.
they owe us two gray boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the issue I have. I get that if you look at just the maybe the color theory, if you will, of past Hero Quest, the European sets don't follow the same rules, if you will. Actually, that classic Hero Quest didn't. I mean, they've changed. So okay, let me explain what I'm saying. I'll unpack this. So in the European releases, red wasn't always good guy. Like you had the red ogres, which were all bad guys. There weren't any ogre mercenaries in the original against the ogre horde. You had the red mercenaries, yes, in Wizards of Morcar. However, in Advanced Quest, they were all the Dark Warriors. Even though they were red, they were bad guys. Okay. In the North American releases, you got Frozen Horror and Mage of the Mirror, and they were planning to do the Wizard and Dwarf Quest packs, which never came out. But in each of those, you got, the figures were on sprues, right? The hero was always a female version of one of the four heroes, but she was cast in the same light blue color that all the monsters were. So they were not red heroes. So they're the same color as the monsters. Now, when Avalon Hill took things over and did the remake, they were careful to make sure the heroes were always red, right? And they even gave us, during the HasLab campaign, additional characters like Sir Ragnar, who would have been represented by a gray figure in the original, um, as a red figure, so like a hero color. And then when they gave us against the Ogre Horde, they made the ogres, instead of being red, they made them gray. And they made the boss ogres, instead of dark blue, they were beige, which I didn't like. I immediately spray painted them the colors I thought they should be. Even the Mage of the Mirror ogres, which were dark blue, they made gray. But I guess if you want to come up with a color theory for gray in the new Hero Quest, I guess you could say gray is either a generic character or a high level bad guy. The problem that I have with the gray is that yes, I have nostalgia for gray Chaos Warriors. So when I see them gray, that's the color I feel like they should be, unless they're painting them red or whatever, silver. But the problem is when you start collecting miniatures, the majority of the figures that you buy are gray, and so it looks like unpainted, you know, basic, like no effort. And so I had this reaction even when I saw like SuQuest back when it was HeroQuest 25th anniversary, and I know that's a whole topic, but they showed a picture of what the game was going to look like, and it was like, okay, you see your little uh, cluster of white figures. Okay, there's your undead. You see another cluster of green figures. It's a little bit bigger, and then you see a really small cluster of red figures. It's the heroes, and then you see this massive cluster of gray figures. It's like they couldn't think of what color the rest of the monsters should be, so they're gray. So it starts to get boring. I think as long as you had just a few characters that were gray, it was fine. But we've steadily seen an increase in the gray monsters. You've got the Goblin Warlock now. You've got the cultists. Well, some of the cultists. You've got the ogres now that are gray. What am I forgetting? Or is that it? Oh, maybe that isn't so bad. But there's a lot of gray, and as cool as it would be to have more, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting more gray Dread Warriors with like different armaments. That would be cool. But a box that was
That
just
is
completely
what I
gray,
meant.
yeah.
That is exactly what I meant.
Okay, so
Okay,
I'm on your side then.
because no, I don't like really too much repetition in the miniatures.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
because we don't need so many. Okay, we're not playing a skirmish. We're not playing a war game.
yeah, yeah. This isn't Warhammer.
Okay, in a room, but to have four black, you have four chaos warrior in the main room. There's sorry, in the main game. Sorry,
Hmm.
a little tired. Uh, we always wanted to have more. Okay, to do
Yeah,
to do huge battle with this
yeah.
chaos warrior. So what I mean is, they are going to do a box with the reprint is fine. Okay, because we need anyway extra chaos warrior. We can have extra cultist. We can have extra gargoyles. But if they want to do extra sculpt, we're missing chaos warrior with two-handed weapons, for example. They're all with the shield and the weapon short. So we need something to remember the old HeroQuest with the big axe.
I would love that. Get Slambo with the two
Mhm.
axes. We need some monsters with flails. I don't care if it's not historically accurate. A flail is a signature weapon of like medieval fantasy, and you've got it on the weapons rack still, so why not? Yeah, the ones with the maces and the shields. I mean, they look cool, but I do prefer the axe. And they've changed them enough that you could still like see the inspiration from the Games Workshop Chaos Warriors without saying, "Oh, this is copyright infringement. This is trademark IP theft." They're gonna get mad.
Maybe a gargoyle with a whip.
Hey, I'd go for it. Yeah. And you could say it's not a ripoff of the Bloodthirster. It's a tribute to the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. You know, because the Peter Jackson impression is not the only image. I mean, the book gives a description and use your imagination, but there's been art for all that time since the 50s about it. Let's see. There's so much we could say about this. So yeah, back when I was speculating, and when I think when other people were speculating, I was definitely thinking, okay, they're going to take the mythic stuff and they're going to divide it into three, like all those stretch goals, and they're going to put all like you were saying, the undead into Prophecy of Telor, and they're going to put all the orcs into Spirit Queen's Torment, and maybe they'll put the other characters into Joe's box, and that way, yeah, they could have white, green, and gray divided like that. But instead, they came up with this new idea, which was again to appease people who had bought the mythic set and to get them to buy it again, but not feel like they were just double dipping. Give them transparent colors. But then we didn't get Joe's set, so it's like, oh, okay, well we're not getting that. And then people got mad, and then the 3D print scan was released, and then we hear it's really coming out. So now we're all thinking that Joe's box is going to have translucent characters again, but it's just going to be some other color. And then the question is, well, what color is the dragon going to be? What color is the dice going to be? But yeah, maybe we're wrong. Maybe those barriers are gone. Maybe they've decided they can use the classic colors again. It doesn't matter. I personally think they're still going to go with the translucent colors, but they wouldn't have to. And it wouldn't have to just be a repeat of what we got. I mean, they had the same exact monsters in those other two boxes, except they switched around the distributions a little bit. I mean, one box had the gargoyle and the other one didn't. One had the dread sorcerer and the other one didn't. But they've got lots of room. I mean, they have a little bit less room because you've got the tiles and the dragon is bigger. But they could do anything. I just think my minimum expectation is there's going to be some translucent characters in there. If they were all gray, would that be better? I think, again, if it were appropriate, like if they were Dread Warriors, Gargoyle, Dread Sorcerer, that would be fine. You could say they're representing stone characters, I guess, because there are some stone characters in some of these expansions. But I don't know. It seems like a minor detail, but I think it does matter in the sense that yes, you're going to have people that are going to say, "Well, what's new in this box that I should be interested in buying it, even though I already have it?" Which was what they were focused on with First Light. They were trying to sell it to us. Doug even said, he gave a little speech when I walked up to the glass case saying like, "Is this enough? We did this, we did this, we did this. Here's a list of all the reasons that it's, unique and interesting, even if you already have the game system." So they're going to do something along those lines. They're going to change it in some way so that we will be interested in buying, even though it's a retail product. And a lot of people that buy it have no clue, have never seen the Mythic set. They're just going to go, "Oh, a new Hero Quest set. Let's see what it is." But they also have a lot of people who wanted the Mythic set but can't afford it now because it's ridiculously priced and rare, who are going to be like, "Okay, well, it's close enough. It's close enough to what I was wanting." And then the collectors thinking, "Okay, well, it's different enough that I'm not upset. I don't feel like I got ripped off. They told me it was proprietary and it wasn't." Now, with the dragon, Bohemius, you can tell me what you think of this, but I think the artwork for the dragon is pretty obviously green. It's green. A green dragon looks cool. A green dragon is iconic. That would make sense as a color, either as translucent or solid color, some other shade of green, it's fine. However, the figure that we got was gray. Okay, big monster, gray represents stronger monster. That makes sense. Maybe a lot of people want to paint it. Makes sense too. Whether they adjust the sculpt at all, make the base bigger, or just leave it as is, fine. Joe also called it a black dragon in his video. A black dragon. I'm assuming that's some kind of D&D reference, because he's like associated with D&D and Critical Role and all that. Do you know anything about black dragons?
But in Dungeons and Dragons, you have different lots of different dragons. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the chromatic dragons, let's say,
Oh,
they are
yeah.
the chaotic, the bad guy. Let's say, and the metallic dragon are the good guy. Talking about anyway the lore how it was 20 years ago. So I don't know.
Oh, it's coming
They
back.
kept it, because with all the new changes of alignment of races and stuff, I don't know. But anyway, they are the spawn of Tiamat,
Oh, yeah.
the mother of dragons. So the black dragon is one of the most vicious dragons in D&D. Of the chromatic dragon is
Okay.
I have many abilities anyway. With Betty, should like spew acid. What else? But this one is more. I don't know. It's a mix between a green dragon and black dragon anyway, because he's poison, no?
Yeah.
Venom.
Yeah, he has
Hmm.
acid powers. I
It's great.
A lot of what you're saying is sparking things in me. I do have a copy of the fifth edition D&D, but it's been a while. I went through it, yeah, and they call them chromatic dragons. Yeah, there's a dragon of every color, gold, silver,
Yes,
bronze, and Tiamat. I remember from
the metallic dragon.
the Tiamat. I
It's
remember from
metallic.
the
They're
cartoon,
gold,
the Saturday
gold,
morning cartoon.
copper. Yep.
Yeah, it's a big red dragon, but it has multiple heads, and each
Yeah.
head is a different color and has
Yes.
different
She's
fire.
more than a dragon. Is like a demonic entity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. She's invincible. The kids always say.
Invisible.
Yeah.
Close the door.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, she would just show up occasionally and
Tiamat, Tiamat is banished
yeah,
by a 3-inch door.
yep. It's magical to movie. Yeah, yeah, even Venger was afraid of Tiamat. So it's like
Yeah,
if they ever
yeah.
needed to write themselves out of the corner they were in, they just say, "Oh yeah, Tiamat shows up and ruins everything." Rainbow Bright Dragon. Oh man. Yep. I started thinking of all the. It's like the shows that were targeted at boys were all like the cool like action stuff, but then you always had the cute. You had the Rainbow Bright. You had the Care Bears. There were
Yep.
boys that liked that stuff too. They just didn't want to admit it. Yeah. Geek on Getty says I downloaded a copy of Flight of the Dragons. Have you seen it? Flight of the Dragons. I'm not familiar with it. Sorry. If you want, if there's a link to it, you can post it, as long as it's legal. Oh, he made a comment earlier. Sorry, I missed that one. You said, oh no, you're talking about First Light. I'm not sure what Flight of the Dragons is. 80s animation. Okay. No, I haven't heard of it. I'll have to look it up. I definitely like a lot of 80s animation. I mean, it's not all great, but there was a lot of stuff I watched and then stuff that I missed that I went back and watched, and it kind of brought me back, nostalgically to that era of cartoons. He says First Light Dragon looks very Mecha Godzilla. Could this be a stepping stone to merge the IP with Space Crusade? I don't know, man. I think that's a stretch. The only similarity he really has to Mecha Godzilla, I mean, you could say the head, maybe a little bit, the face. I mean, just because he's a metallic gray color, I think it looks more like a bronze statue. I mean, Mecha Godzilla didn't have big wings like that. But, the hands out does kind of make you think of Godzilla. I mean, he looks like a wrestler in a dragon suit. It is kind of how Godzilla has always looked. The suitmation. But what that has to do with Space Crusade, I mean, there are no Godzilla type creatures in Space Crusade. There's the Dreadnought is basically like Ed 209 from RoboCop, is what he looks like. But then, when you see him painted, he's got like a hot rod paint job, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I gotta do my Dreadnought too. Man, I don't know if I'll get to that. I'll try. I gotta paint 10 Eldar figures, and then I'll try to paint some kind of Dreadnought for the convention. And if we get a chance to play, that'd be great. Well, okay. So have we talked enough about upcoming Hero Quest? And it looks like it's just you and me. So you ready
I
for?
really, really, one thing that I really, really hope that doesn't happen is that they're going to give us the same Dragon of First Light.
Oh,
For
the same one
I
in
really
package.
hope they don't do that.
That would be an
Yeah, the same one.
interesting. That would be an interesting thing because it would be like, okay, so Joe's words about it being proprietary are still fulfilled, and people like us, I bought First Light, but there's a lot of people out there that go, I don't even need this. Who cares? I'm not going to buy First Light. Forget it. It's not worth it. So they still might want the dragon. So they would buy COPD and they get a different dragon and they get the one so they don't have to buy First Light. It could be in a different color. But I agree it would feel kind of crappy, like a green version of the First Light Dragon. I guess I could see one bit of skepticism would say no, that couldn't happen because spoilers, it's not a real dragon. The storyline of First Light, it's a different kind of creature than the creature that Joe put in front of us. Two different kinds of creatures. On the other hand, you could debunk that criticism by saying, well, they gave us a red gargoyle that was representing the demon form of the warlock, in theory, and that's not what the demon form of the warlock looks like. Like if you compare the card art to that figure, I mean, one's just a red gargoyle. You can see the cracks in the stone on his skin, whereas the warlock one has a whole bunch of eyes and he looks kind of like a spider with wings. He's this weird arachnid type demon. I mean, it's totally different. But you see a big red guy with wings, and you think, okay, yeah, that could be a demon. So there's still some imagination involved. I think personally it would do more for the goodwill of people who were pissed at Joe for locking his stuff down. I mean, we're grateful to him that the stuff came out rather than being held back, but we're also kind of pissed at him for keeping it exclusive and forcing, quote unquote, pressuring people into buying the super overpriced scalped versions because they couldn't get it. And so him giving us as close as possible to that original creation, and then it's a good compromise to say, okay, yes, you can get the same sculpt, but it's going to be a different color. Maybe it'll look cooler than just gray. Personally, I think anything looks cooler than gray, unless it's like, I don't know, beige or maybe like puke colored or something. I don't know, pink, bubblegum. Not everyone's going to paint it. Go ahead. Yeah.
We talked in the Randcast. Okay, there's a possibility they put together what is missing from the Mythic for Crypt of Perpetual Darkness. Okay, so there is a rumor that I'm creating. Okay, but it's based on on the leaks. They're being very accurate. Okay, everybody said that they're not being accurate. What the problem was the reporting that was not accurate. The leaks themselves, they were extremely accurate. So that's why I believe them strongly.
Yeah, it's kind of like everything we hear, including the swerves, the reports that are designed to confuse us. Even those seem to eventually come true in some form or fashion. So I get that train of thought. It's like, oh yeah, well, we might get dwarven furniture at some point, right? We might.
Even all the rumors that we heard about against the ogre horde, they were all correct. Even they were all wrong when they were told. They tell us the information, but they checks out all of them.
Well,
okay,
we were supposed to get a female dwarf. We didn't, but we did get an explorer.
Yeah,
but female in the next pack.
The guy,
and we did get
yes,
a
but
halfling.
The guy that was giving the information was a translator, and he didn't have the product. It was translated, and the dwarf was Cristobal say the dwarf, because the other guy didn't say the dwarf. He say,
oh, really?
He's an adventure. He's a fight. Yeah.
Oh, so we were.
It was Cristobal the mistake.
Okay. Oh, this makes a lot more sense. I was like, why is he apologizing then if he wasn't wrong? He's apologizing because he added his own interpretation on top of the report, and he guessed wrong.
Exactly.
Well, okay. Let's look at that for a second, because some of the things I remember him saying, and again, I'm looking at it through subtitles.
I can dispute everything.
He said something like, okay, Wizards of Morcar, there's going to be a final battle with Zargon on the board. That was one thing.
Yes.
And he also said that HeroQuest is going to transition into the D&D world. Like the world of HeroQuest is going to be the D&D world. Is that speculation, or is that based on something he heard?
That is a speculation.
Okay.
Okay. They because they believe, because they were talking about the aquatic expansion.
Yeah. The one the Abomination expansion.
Okay.
Yeah.
They should have come out the 25th this year, but with all the delays, probably is coming the next year. Okay, and Nagas are creature from Dungeons and Dragons, so yeah, you understand this. Well, used mostly there. They're creature anyway, but part of the mythology. They're not part only of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes. So
Well,
that one was
I
a speculation because
yeah.
they were throwing parallels.
And I don't think those are necessarily good things if they were to do that. I mean, it could be done in a way that was okay. I think I
Hmm.
admitted, well, if they did a D&D crossover, because Avalon Hill asked us about crossovers, I personally think the HeroScape crossover would be probably the best. Better than a Talisman crossover, better than D&D crossover. But if they were to do a D&D crossover and it was just a one-off, just one box, not like we're changing the lore forever. We're just saying, "Oh, here's a side adventure that combines the two games into one or shares the lore between them." Like that would be okay. And you could argue that even though Legacy of Sorasil was very obscure, I mean, a lot of HeroQuest players have no idea it ever existed. They never played it on the Amiga. Like you can definitely see a D&D influence on that. And so there's precedent of having, yeah, a world of HeroQuest that has creatures that kind of remind you of D&D a lot, like much more so than any other incarnation. So it wouldn't be totally out of the blue, wouldn't be totally out of place. But still, I'd be like, I'd rather keep the games separate. And fighting Zargon on the board, like we've talked about that in terms of like it could be done, but I think nobody would believe it. Like nobody would accept it because if you kill Zargon, it's over. Like the whole thing's over. So of course he's not really dead. Of course he's going to get away. Of course there's going to be another guy exactly like him that comes forth, and that to me feels really really cheap. However, a person could come back and say, yeah, all of those swerves and misdirections are a classic like trope of fiction. Like every kid who's read comic books knows that when somebody dies, most of the time they're not really dead. Most of the time the villain looks like he's defeated, but of course he comes back. Sooner or later it gets reset. So that reminds you of something you enjoy, brings back those fond memories, and so who cares if it's cliche? I mean, why not? So I just feel like it would be cheap heat, I guess, to have a final battle with Zargon on the board. But would I love to have like a Zargon miniature, or maybe several versions of it? That would be pretty awesome. But what would he look like then? Everybody has their idea of what he looks like, and if he looks different than that, people are going to say, "No, that's not him." Bohemius, what do you think? Am I off base there?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, the cheapest way to do it would be just to give you the. I was saying, just give us the mentor figure from the HasLab campaign, just in a different color, and you could say it's Sargon. Like, why not? Like, who's to say that he looks like Skeletor? He could just look like a wizard. I mean, Gandalf and Saruman, they both look like old guys in cloaks. You know, maybe one's got a different color than the other, but otherwise they're the same guy. You could argue it. Or maybe Zargon looks like a big, scary demon or something. Uh, the text describes him as a man, so he was a man, but maybe he's a man who's become a monster. Maybe he's got a helmet on. He's got a face mask, so you can't see what he looks like. He's got a hood that covers his face.
Who knows?
Mhm.
You know, speculating on Zarkon is tough because okay, if you really want to speculate, I believe we see in Zarkon already in the very first animation of the campaign, the Aslab campaign. Do you remember the Zargon? It looked like he's like in front of the Dread Army.
Oh, I'm
So
gonna have
what
to go
is
back and
one of
look.
those two?
You know,
So use one of those two characters, or the one that is kneeling, or the one that is
oh no,
sitting on the
I
throne.
know what you're talking
So
about now. I'm not going to show the
yeah,
clip, but yeah, there's a video,
yeah.
and it.
I mean,
Yep,
that's official. One of those two characters
yes,
for sure is Argon.
good point. Okay, well, on the next Rantcast, we'll bring up that video. I remember it now. Yes, there's a huge room, this huge hall filled with Dread Warriors, and at the front, with his back to us, there's a Dread Warrior kneeling, and then in front of him is standing this shadowy figure that looks like a sorcerer or something. So yeah, it's like if you were recreating it with your miniatures, you just have a Chaos Warrior standing there, and then you'd have the Chaos Warlock in front of him. So yeah, is this Zargon kneeling to his master, or is it Zargon is the master, and this is just
We know
his
we know
general?
that Zargon is a caster, so let's say that he's not a 50-50, he's at least a 75-25.
Well, in the Warhammer lore, I know it's not the same character, but Morkar was the original name of Zargon in the European release. But you spell it with a K, and there's a character called Morkar in Warhammer lore, and he's a Chaos Warrior, not a sorcerer. But he's in a totally different era. He's like from the ancient past. Whereas Morkar or Zargon is described as the student of Mentor. So he's like a young man who grows up and then somehow becomes immortal, just like Mentor is. I mean, he lives for centuries, but he's a wizard. He's not described as a Chaos Warrior. The Chaos Warriors work for him, they were around before he existed. But it could be an interesting way, like if you interpret it that way, to say, well, I mean, the Chaos Warriors do have like magical weapons or magical armor, and in the adventures, we sometimes experience them with like they're carrying some magical artifact. Maybe they're not spellcasters per se, but they could be, or low-level spellcasters.
Well,
So it could be
the
a
World of
tie to
Warhammer,
the old
yeah,
lore,
yeah.
a little
Okay,
nostalgic.
if you tie to the old lore, okay, there's the spellcaster that use full plate armor in the Chaos ranks.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's possible.
I
But
almost feel like we're
you
not
get the
gonna,
connection.
I almost feel like we're not gonna play a quest today. We're just gonna talk about Hero Quest. We haven't done a Hero Quest talk like dedicated episode in a while. You know what? I'm just gonna find the video because I feel like we should talk about it. As long as you don't mind. I mean, I don't want to keep you waiting. What do you think? Should we?
No, no, absolutely.
You go
For
for
me, it's
hours.
fine.
So I'm gonna try to find it. Hero Quest trailer, Avalon Hill. It was a cool trailer, but yeah, they don't stuff is not labeled. It's just here it is. Okay, so this is from YouTube. This is Hasbro Pulse. It's not Avalon Hill. It's Hasbro Pulse. Video is called Hasbro Pulse Hero Quest. The Quest is Calling from 4 years ago, September 22nd, 2020. And I think this is the same one that they linked in the HasLab campaign, or very similar. This is the one that shows the old dice. Ah, thanks, Geek on Getty. Okay, right there. All right, so we see that looks like a Chaos Warrior to me. His back is to us. He's got a bigger, fancier cape.
And those huge figures similar to Sauron.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
guy.
I guess we do see his face. It's just in shadow, but I mean it.
Just in shadow, you see the silhouette from behind. You see the black nails. So like a leech.
He looks very similar to the Chaos, not the Chaos Warlock, but they call him the Dread Sorcerer. Okay.
Yeah, but he's much taller. He's double of
like
Sauron
and Peter Jackson. Okay, so I was thinking it's this guy, right? The placeholder figure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's even similar. It's just reversed.
It's possible, but the size is double of that guy. So
he's standing on some stairs, but yeah, he's big.
Hey.
And then so it's just like this. So those are the two guys. You got the Dread Warrior, and then let's look at the video. See, this is the stuff that was so much fun. Okay, he's got the crown. All right, let's look.
Can you check the shoulder of the miniature? Does he have I don't have miniature with me right now. Does he have a horn
No, he
coming
doesn't.
out from the shoulder?
Nope.
Does he have a huge, how is it called, the collar? Very tall,
Nope.
similar to the one of the
Just a.
vampires.
It's just a cloak,
No,
so there's
you see,
hardly any.
so the
This is.
dress is already different.
You're right. It
This
is
guy got very
similar.
long. Yes,
Yeah, I mean, this guy has. It looks like he's got long fingernails, but
yeah.
I think the thumb is broken off of my figure. I never noticed it before because his thumb looks like stubby. Oh well. Yeah, it's more for my mythic set. Yeah. So if you compare,
They're similar, but not the same. That one,
doesn't have the
the other one, have,
spikes. His thumb is gone. The crown is more exaggerated here. Doesn't have the
yes,
staff. Switch the arm.
yes, the crown is pointy. That one is the have like a knot, a metal knot.
Of course, that all that tells me though is that, well, what does Zargon look like? He looks similar to this. Not
Yes,
exactly, but similar. Just like the
not
Witch
exactly.
Lord looks similar to this, but not exactly. Of course, the Witch Lord, I mean, they gave us a figure of the Witch Lord. He had a fancy helmet and everything. Different looking staff. The original didn't have a staff. He just had the arms raised and the like a cultist, the touchdown American football symbol. All right, so let's go back. No, I'm glad you brought this up because I haven't thought about this in a long time, and it was a tantalizing teaser. So yeah, so the question is the guy kneeling? Is that Zargon? And then this is his master. But the only thing with that is, I mean, they talk about in the original lore, Morcar calls upon the great powers of chaos, right? He doesn't realize what he's done. They'll serve him for a time while it suits their dark purposes, but then eventually he'll be destroyed by them. They deleted some of that in the later story, so it's just like, oh yeah, he aligned himself with the powers of dread. Okay, so based on all that, you're probably right. The shadowy figure, this silhouette is Zargon, and then this other guy is just his general, some unnamed chaos general or dread general, dread warrior, and then there's the army. Yeah, so when you look at that figure there, you don't really get much more. He's got some glowing eyes, but I mean, he's all in darkness. He is very tall. You're right. He is very tall. He's got some kind
Yeah,
of
it's not
stony
exactly
skull.
double of a warrior if you put them at the same. This guy is kneeling, so
He's
yes,
Chaos
he's
Warrior.
slightly taller than the Chaos Warrior. You can see
They're
behind
tall.
anyway. He got like they are first thing first. They are inside a runic castle,
Hmm.
and the with runes everywhere, and the throne also
Oh,
got runes like dwarvish runes. So he's
yeah.
hiding somewhere in a dwarven castle
If we got a figure
in this moment.
that looked like that, but imagine you look at the figure and there's no detail. He's just like a
hmm
shadow.
I,
He's just like a
I
wraith.
don't I don't know if they made it in purpose. The throne itself, okay, uh,
An
the
M.
line like an M of Morcar.
I never thought of that.
Okay,
I
so
just thought it was a design, but yeah, it could be a
I don't
signal to
I
the
don't know if they
viewer.
made it in purpose.
Like they could have. I'm sure they did this on purpose. Like they know the fans are watching it, looking for details, and yeah, people remember Morcar and they Morcar. That's him.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. It's but without saying anything, so they're not stomping on anybody's dreams or wishes. They're just saying, "Here's this cool thing, and take from it what you will." But this is not in the box. This is not on the cover. This is just a
No.
video that they showed to the world to get us excited for it. Yeah, good point. Okay, so then it zooms out, and we've got okay. It's not just Chaos Warriors. There's also orcs. I'm sure they've mixed all the figures in here. And the door closes. And then of course, then they show us statues of the heroes, which if I'm watching this,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking these are the original heroes. I'm thinking this is Rogar and his companions. Although he doesn't have the Star of the West on his forehead, so maybe I'm wrong about that. So maybe this is like, I don't know what this is. Because yeah, they give you the stone statues, but it's like you're just setting off on your journey, so why do you have monuments to yourself already? These are the legends that you will become. Okay, and then there's Mentor behind you, glowing in blue, which his even though he was supposed to be red the whole time, I mean, in the sticker album he's portrayed as wearing blue, but here he's glowing blue like a ghost. He appears in spectral form in some of the quests. Oh, and there's the rounded dice that we never got. This is the CGI mock-up with the different lettering, different covers, different character sheet, different dice. Yeah, and then they show us the usual.
You see,
Yeah.
if you really want to split the air, okay, the same style of tunic is the one of Mentor.
Yeah. Yeah,
with
kind of a
with the collar, with the long, with
mhm.
the
It's
pointy.
kind of a it's an interesting style. I mean, I could see it's kind of like a priestly robe. It's also kind of like a
Mhm.
graduate, like a scholar's robe,
Yes.
and then also a little bit of wizardy, look to it. But then the figure itself makes you think of like a witch or like Skeletor from Masters of the Universe. Uh, yeah, that the thumb is definitely broken off my figure. See, I thought my set was perfect, but I guess the thumb is broken. I could add a little bit of milliput or something to the thumb to fix it. Yep. And then these are the CGI renders. They're more exaggerated than the actual figures. I feel like they toned these guys down a little bit. But yeah, they could always
No,
go back for
it's
inspiration.
normal. It's normal when you
Yeah,
have a hard plastic. You need to
yeah.
do it, otherwise,
Won't be stable. It'll break.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was back in the days. That's what we had to tease us. Oh yeah, the front of it. It's got the gargoyle statues. Let me just look at this again. Okay, so there's all the battles, the death, dead bodies, runes, a crack, and then Lore Tome is depicted as this magical stone book. Of course, all of these appear to be statues, even though they're like skeletons and things. So there's Lore Tome, which is kind of a cool impression. I mean, I just pictured just a regular book. I mean, I even had this reimagining where it was like an ancient computer, and maybe the book was just the printout. But yeah, there's the guy walking in. On the other hand, I'm also thinking of, I'm not saying it was a great movie or anything, but do you remember Man of Steel, where they had the Kryptonian technology it was all like formed out of like nanotechnology or something, like it would form an image in stone and then it would crumble away and then would form another image, but it looked like solid. This is what it makes me think of. So maybe this is an artistic way of presenting the HeroQuest story, or it could be Lore Tome itself is like forming these images in stone for us to see of the various things. It shows us the
Maybe.
heroes. It shows us. Although you watch this and you just think, oh yeah, HeroQuest happened a long time ago, and so somebody just made a memorial representing everything that happened. But anyway, it isn't necessarily a prediction of things to come, but it would be cool. I mean, if I agree with you, if they released if they're going to release a figure of Zargon and it looks like this, I'd be okay with that. I think that looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
One thing they could do though, to avoid all the snafus of a weird storyline where you fight him and he gets away or dies and comes back, is to just give us the figure and no comment. Just here's the figure. Like do what you want with it.
Do what you want.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that's what they've done with so many of these other things. They give us characters and they don't tell us how to use it, except for the bard, and that was controversial. Uh, I mean, give you a suggestion. You could say, hey, what do you do with these extra heroes? Well, when one character dies, give them the option to sub in, get the guy off the bench, send him in, like if you want.
Geek Gone Giddy said we should translate with AI all those rooms.
Oh man. So yeah, because it could be
Could be
gibberish. It
a
could be
clue.
gibberish, or it could be a secret code. Yeah, they're telling us.
I think somebody made an attempt
Oh, of
long
course they
ago,
did.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it says here, Frozen Horror will be the first expansion in retail 2022, followed by
Wait,
the
wait,
Guardian Knight
no,
will be limited release. Yeah, yeah.
no, no, look like a schedule. You see those numbers at the beginning of the line?
They told us everything. Yep. Yep. Quick, turn the
Everything
page. What is
already
it?
planned.
When does it say? When does the more cars coming out? Somebody get on that. Figure it out. Use AI to translate it. And then you got all this stuff here. It says, courage lasts for only one attack. Sorry about that. Dice are
Clark
whites. Get
Mitchell is
used
the
to it.
best.
Say that again. What was it?
Clark Mitchell is the best.
He is the best. Yep,
He's the best artist.
the best artist. They tried to warn us. Yeah, that would be funny. Well, it's.
And
I'm thinking of
Joe was here.
Joe was here. Yep. I'm a Star Wars fan still. I love classic Star Wars. And so if you remember Return of the Jedi, they had like previously like the computer readouts and stuff in the background you'd see in like the Death Star. It was all in English. But then in Return of the Jedi, they had this made up language. This these symbols, these hieroglyphics or whatever.
Arubash.
Yeah, yeah, they called it Arabesh, and the expanded universe they actually came up with like, yeah, this character means this and everything. You can download
Hmm.
fonts, you can write in Star Wars fonts, and so it's become a thing. But
Yeah,
I remember some fans they went back to Return of the Jedi and they're just like, it's just gibberish. Like it doesn't work. You'd have to redo all the symbols to make it make sense. Like, oh, power level or fire missiles or readout, whatever it says. It just says nonsense. But it looks cool. It makes it look more alien. And George Lucas did go back to the previous Star Wars movies, and he actually edited the English out of the computer readouts and changed it to Arabesh. But he actually used it 1-to-1. So when it said like tractor beam power, it just translated into it's just character for character using the Arabic script, which some people liked and
yeah.
other people were like, why was that even necessary? But there you have it. It's like when Obi-Wan's turning the power off on the tractor beam, and when the Death Star is firing, you see like the computer readouts. I'm trying to think if there was anything else in the cockpit, maybe.
So it's still English, but it's just using different characters.
Exactly. Hey, he's here. Welcome, Glasgow.
Hello, what have I missed?
Well, we've just been kind of stalling, waiting for something to happen. We were like, it's just Bohemius and I. I guess we're just going to talk about HeroQuest. We were speculating about this old rumor about what if Zargon would ever have his own figure and would ever appear in a quest as a character. But then it was brought up to me, hey, look. Sorry, was it Bohemius or Geek on Giddy that said it first? Like, we've got this old video.
I don't know.
Somebody said
I
it.
was not really.
Rewind the video.
But
Yeah. Geek on Giddy says, we have lost the boot and moving into new dungeon. Oh, and don't get Corona confused with beer. Wink. Yeah.
Zargon is boot.
He's hiding in the boot tile. Okay, so we've got this character here. So are we in an agreement now that this silhouetted figure is Zargon or Morkar or whoever, and the kneeling figure in front of him is just a general, just a Chaos Warrior or Dread Warrior? Because when I first saw this, I mean, HeroQuest wasn't out yet. The remake wasn't out yet. And so I was thinking, oh, I wonder if that was like the dread power that he had pledged himself to. You know what I mean? And it was going to be some shadowy figure in the background. But now you could pretty much say now it looks very similar to a Dread Sorcerer. So this is probably meant to be Zargon. And this is just one of his generals kneeling before him. And if they gave us a figure, yes, they could give us Mentor in a different color. They could give us another Dread Sorcerer. But they could give us like a guy with, a sharp collar and a spiked podlon and a big, huge cloak, and he's tall, casted in black plastic.
So is the conjecture that there maybe could be a Zargon figure potentially in the
Yeah.
future Wizards of Morcar?
Or somewhere. And then the question is, if they did that, what would be the point?
And
Like,
with that,
would it just be to say, here's a figure, no comment, use them however you want, which I personally think would probably be the best? Or would they give us a storyline where it's like, yep, here he is, fight him, and you kill him, and then it's like,
Morcar,
oh, but then his eye opens up, or, you see the hand reaching up. Of course, he comes
Where-
back.
they're going to give us the illusion to fight Zargon, but we
Yeah,
actually fight
true.
Morcar. That is
Yeah.
his good part that you have to kill to become completely evil.
Oh. Killed Dr. Jekyll. Now Mr. Hyde is the only one left. Well, and then people were saying, like,
Now,
okay, this
and now,
looks like an M.
after we kill his good part, he's free. He can be evil forever.
Yep, he's completely. Lord Dread is completely a robot now. Yep. Yeah, there's lots of things you could do. I think it's probably better if you keep him as a mystery, but yeah, this whole question of is Wizards of Morcar going to take this another area because or to another level? Because in Carmine, when he was with the company, did say, "I can't wait to drop that bomb on everybody." He deliberately made us consider the question: is Zargon and Morcar? Is it just a name difference? Is it a different character? What is it? Because I can imagine Wizards of Morcar just being called Wizards of Morcar and then no explanation given who or what Morcar is, and it's still Zargon. Or they could give us just the story as written from the original. It's Morcar. It's Morcar. Who the heck is Morcar? Well, for this quest, the evil wizard character will be called Morcar, and then maybe you find out at the end that it was Zargon all along, or maybe you never find it out. But what if they gave us something like this in the box, and this was the guy, and it's a way to have a fight with Zargon without having to fight with Zargon? Could that be cool, or would it be silly? So many thoughts.
Yeah,
Glasgow, what's your
Interesting.
reaction?
Well, I'm in the camp of give us a miniature, and I like Bohemius's idea of the multifaceted Zargon. I think that's a cool idea. I like to have the best of both worlds. I would like a better finale to Wizards of Morcar than the classic one, where all the wizards are back. Sorry, spoilers, and have something a little bit more special for the final quest of that campaign. But I also don't want to have a final showdown with Zargon where Zargon is destroyed. I don't think that makes sense. So I quite like that idea. So I'm in the camp of give us a miniature, give us a special miniature.
Yeah, it would be such a weird thing. I mean, they could. I'm just imagining all kinds of scenarios. What if they did this? They just said, "Yep, here's Morcar, Zargon. It's the same guy, and you fight him and you kill him and he's dead." But really, what happens is he's not dead because it's a comic book story, right? And it's similar to the prologue of Hero Quest. Yeah, Rogar and his companions defeated Zargon centuries ago. Now he's back. You, the heroes today, beat him, and a few centuries from now he'll be back again in some other form. And then the next expansion is set 500 years in the future. But the problem is, why even bother? Because of course there's new heroes like coming back to fight him again. It's like, what's the point? Unless you're going to change the setting radically and you're going to, I don't know, redesign all the monsters so they look totally different. I mean, maybe instead of orcs there's Skaven now or something. I don't know. What would you would do it not just to fool people for a moment. You would do it to give yourself flexibility for future stories. If there was some artistic reason to do it, don't do it just to do it, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, if they have a really cool plan, maybe it would work. But otherwise, just give us the miniature and don't say anything. I don't know. Am I way off? Of course I am.
If it goes that far where you
Jacer.
get to the point where you actually do get to fight and defeat him, I'd say the same thing. It doesn't mean that he's dead, or that even when he hits 0, he automatically uses an escape spell, and that's the end, and leaves you on a cliffhanger for another time.
Yep, I'll be back. I may have been defeated for now, but just you wait. Your ancestors or your descendants will fight me again. Yeah, because if they kill him for good and just say, oh, and then there's an identical evil sorcerer in this other corner of the world named Grimdead, and you got to fight him next. Like, well, I do want to face Grimdead, but I don't want to. Yeah, just have it be just such a silly. I don't know. Like, I like gimmicks. I like references to other fiction. I like tropes that are reminding us of nostalgic things from the past, but I don't know. I guess even I have my limits. Well, Jacer, welcome. So we're getting started a little bit later here, but you're all here. Any other closing thoughts on the predictions for the future from July 1st?
I'm also quite intrigued. I'm quite intrigued to speculate on what's going to be included with Crypto Perpetual Darkness.
Yes.
You know, what are the miniatures in there going to be? You know, because there's some interesting possibilities. Obviously we know about the dragon. Will it be the same miniature again? And will there be a hero packed in there somewhere? Was it Crypto Perpetual Darkness where we met a Minotaur skeleton?
Yes.
So I mean that's possible too. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Even if it's a one-off thing, I mean, it's still something from your imagination. I guess the only thing that stops me there is thinking if they're trying to just save money and just reuse assets from before, they probably won't give us anything new. It'll all just be different colors. But yeah, if they were going to give us new things, it would be cool for Wizards of Morcar to have different mercenaries. It would be cool to have a different dragon. It would be cool to have, a Minotaur skeleton, a Zargon figure, Morcar figure. They could do all those things.
Yeah, I mean, new sculpts cost money, of course, but if they decided that they were going to put in lesser miniatures but more new miniatures, then that might be the trade-off.
Yeah. It could be a mixture. I mean, they've reused the cultists, they've reused the ranged skeletons and goblins. We've gotten, the mythic stuff multiple times now. Not all of it though. I mean, I would like to see those remaining ones. I guess I would rather. I don't know. Let me put this out to you guys. If let's just imagine, for the sake of argument, that COPD and Wizards of Morcar are the last boxed releases, the last new content they released for HeroQuest. Would you want to see just all the mythic stuff in the box in new colors, or would you want to see brand new stuff? Like, which one would you buy?
I would like the crypt with all the stuff of the mythic that is missing, and with our marker with all new stuff, completely new. I don't even want to see the mercenaries, the old one.
I could see that. So you get the best of both worlds that way.
For Wizards of Morcar, I would like to see the mercenaries the same style but gender swapped.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you have, even if they did something like they did with the archers and the swords or elven warriors, where they had the same pose, they're just
mirror images
reversed.
Yeah.
So even if they did that and changed the male and then changed the other one's female.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty cool thing. I hope they're in red plastic instead of gray. That's kind of my thing. If not, I'm gonna paint them. I'm gonna paint them red. Well, and you'd rather see that than just giving them all like face masks and like bulky armor, so you can't tell if it's a man or a woman. You just whatever your imagination says.
Right, and if they're already going to do the sculpts, like you can always go back and they can either do another reprint of Frozen Horror if they wanted, if they wanted to release more of the other ones back out.
Hmm.
That way, if you bought both boxes, you would have, 24 mercenaries, and
Which
it'd be
is a
12
lot.
of each.
Yeah. Well, and then if you have two different colors of mercenaries, it's easy to say that one side are like evil and the other side are like good on the side of the heroes. I mean, without having to paint or use remarkable rims to differentiate them. Thanks, Ruby. Geeko and Giddy had a couple of suggestions. He was bringing up the. I'm trying to think if it was was it Hot Wheels that had the old toy cars where you could dip them in water and they would change color, like the paint.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, that's a cool idea for a miniature, but the problem is you're not going to be throwing water on your board, right? So yeah, they'll change color for a second, but then as they dry, they're gonna go back to their old color. So kind of like having glow in the dark figures or fluorescent figures. I mean,
Well,
it's a cool gimmick, but most people aren't gonna play that way. So
well, if they had a temperature change, it could be cool.
like a mood ring.
Like, well, if you even like the old like the Transformers where you had
Put a
to
little
put your finger on it
put a little
and it would show
heater.
you if it was a Decepticon or an Autobot or whatever.
You have a little heating element underneath so that it changes color. But then you're gonna like burn a hole through your melt part of your board. Yeah, I remember those little pressure sensitive stickers for the Transformers.
Yeah.
They even had a commercial that was saying like, oh, this tells you that these are genuine, products. Only we have the right to have these symbols, which I thought was funny in hindsight because Transformers was just a recycled line. It wasn't original at the start, and they weren't even the first transformable robots. I mean, GoBots were before them, and I think there was other stuff before them too. But yeah, at the time it was just kind of like, okay, you want to buy the official Transformers figures, you want your grandma to buy you Transformers, make sure they've got the little symbol, and then you're good. Whereas I was just happy to get a transforming robot. I didn't care. Geek on Getty says new expansion will feature a Jello, like the gelatinous cube, that will reveal a mystery figure when you pour water over it. One use only, and therefore hiking the untouched resale value. Like the idea of Zargon being a mentor, split personality, and fighting for their own independent corporeal form. So I mean, as cool as that idea sounds, I really, really hope that they don't go down the route of blind buys or loot boxes in these games. Like, you scratch it off to see what the quest is, because then you got people that are selling it. It's like gambling, It's like, oh man, pay extra for this because it might be the rare thing that you want, but probably it isn't. I think that kind of sucks. I hate when companies do that, so I hope they don't go down that route. As cool as your idea is, like I said. He says, in the 90s, I recall buying single jelly sweets sealed and formed plastic outer packaging, and they were monster shapes. Bring them back and use the packaging to create do-it-yourself figures with Expo resin poured in. Sweet jelly sweets sealed and formed plastic outer packaging. I'm not quite familiar with that. I mean, we're from a different country, so that could make sense. But I remember a lot of toys where, yeah, you could make your own figures either with like clay or Play-Doh or monster flesh. There was even I think they were called vacuforms. That was before my time, but there was a kit where you'd melt the plastic and you'd pour it into molds. And I think they took it off the market because it was fairly toxic. I mean, the fumes were pretty nasty. But I guess we've got 3D printing now, so we have our own version of that. Scratch and sniff, handheld thermo change, epoxy resin. Yeah. Well, I was thinking like, hey, they could bring back the detachable weapons for the mercenaries, but there's problems with that. I mean, Joe and I were going back and forth not Joe Kosher, but the other Joe, about that on the Discord. It's like, well, if they make the weapons detachable, they could break, they could get lost. You'd have people gluing them down and then reselling them, and then you get the glued version. Like there's downsides to it. Plus, then you got to make the bodies generic. Like you could have a generic like female soldier and a generic male soldier, and then just the arms are different. Like you know, the arms are holding the weapon, and you insert the base. But you would only do that because you're wanting to save space, you're wanting to save cost, because then you only have to print a few, or only have to cast a few figure bodies, and then you could just have lots of weapons, which is how the original was. But they decided, no, you're not going to do any assembly. The figures are already ready to go, which makes it more accessible. And you just have enough figures in the box so that you can have every combination of weapons, right? So Wizards of Morkar is probably going to have, what, 24? Do you guys remember, did Wizards of Morkar have 16 weapons or 24 weapons? Do you remember? I've got it. I could go count them, I guess. Somebody knows. Somebody has the details. Well, I guess it doesn't matter that much for now. But I'll look it up before the next stream.
Okay, so I'm
me
looking at the back of the Wizards of Morkar box.
check.
It had 24 weapons.
Oh, dang. So 24 mercenaries in the box.
So much garbage. You
there
really want
was-
mercenaries? No, I mean not for the new box. I mean, it's a lot of garbage because we already have mercenaries in another box. It's too much.
36 mercenaries. Well, next up,
I mean-
HeroQuest,
we
the war
actually-
game.
It was actually there was 12 miniatures, 12 Minotaur miniatures, and 24 weapons.
Yeah. Well, then you could say, do you actually need all of those? Because wasn't there a restriction in Wizards of Morkar that each hero could only hire 4? So that'd be 16. But then you wouldn't have the same distributions. Like, what if each person said, "Yeah, I want 4 crossbowmen." Yeah, I don't know. So you'd have 6 of each type, just so that, yeah, eventually you run out. So the first person who buys all their mercenaries, like, they get all that they want. The next person gets some of what they want, maybe if they wanted the same one. I don't know. They could divide it up however they want, I suppose. Now the Dark Company, I was thinking, the Dark Company on the board, it just showed the Dark Warrior. Like, it didn't say what weapon they had. It was up to Morkar to decide based on what he had. Like, does he want it to be this or that? And you didn't have to worry because they were all bad guys. Whereas in the Frozen Horror, you only had 6 mercenaries. And some of them could be bad guys. But it was just like, Zargon puts out on the board whatever he has, whatever he wants. And if he doesn't have it, then he substitutes a different monster. So there's ways to deal with that kind of thing, if that's an issue. He-Man Jelly. Via link. Okay. Do I want to click on this?
We're still needing ranged Dread Warriors too.
There we go. Yep. Crossbows. Cannons. Hand cannons. Slingshots.
Well, that was on my wish list for COPD, was ranged zombies.
There you
You
go.
have ranged skeletons.
That's true. Yeah, if skeletons can hit stuff, then surely zombies can too. Of course they can, and don't
And-
call me Shirley.
And even if they did just a card for like the abominations to throw the spears, then they could use the old sculpts if they wanted. And you have a ranged abomination.
They could. I would like them to redesign it, just because, as cool as that sculpt is, it takes up too much room on the
too
board.
big.
It's too crowding.
Yeah.
This looks awesome. Okay, I love it. This is one of my
Right, but
favorite.
if he had this, if he was holding the spear over his head, it would be less crowded because most of the minis are lower.
Yeah, if you look at the original Famir, you'll notice that he holds the battle axe up over his head. The tail is coiled back to the side. I mean, it's very well designed for a board game piece. This would be fine in a war game, but yeah, he crowds. Like you put him in this tiny room, and it's like, dang, stop it. It's like,
But if they did a new sculpt where they had his arm raised over his head and maybe throwing like a trident,
yeah,
or even a different type of harpoon or something,
like he's ready to
I could
stab it
see that
downward.
working.
Yeah, or he's holding it aloft. Yeah. Well, and if the rumors about the Abomination expansion, the underwater expansion, are true, I mean, we could expect more designs of that. I'd be cool with that. All right. Well, guys, we can split the video there, I suppose, and we can start our quest if people still have the energy. What do you think? Should we journey on since you're all here?
Let's do this.
All right. Deep Sea Jelly Monster. Okay, well, Geek on Giddy, I'll have to check out those links. Thank you for providing them. Yeah, we'll check them out. So again, let me just say welcome to HeroQuest fans. We're playing against the Ogre Horde. Shout out to Carl Casey at White Bat Audio, Carl Casey Bandcamp. Check out his website, Bandcamp, and also White Bat Audio on YouTube. Now we have created some AI songs, but right now we're using this supposedly royalty-free song. And so hopefully it stays that way, and we want to give proper credit. But we have been having some issues lately with Twitch and music. So we'll work around that as best we can.